There's been a lot of talk recently about video games. This, again, really? Is this really what we're supposed to be thinking about right now? Is this what the fucking President of the United States is concerned about? This? This is what you're concerned about? Not the fact that you ignore your own advisors to keep more power to yourself. The fact that you brag about having less than half approval rate, despite somehow winning an election with fewer votes than your opponent. Not the fact that states are restricting the rights of minorities, restricting voter freedom to the point of them not even being democracies anymore. The fact that ICE is behaving in a way that reminds me as an historian about the Nazi secret police, especially considering the fact that they're targeting refugees and minorities and breaking many human rights as they do so. Yeah, let's talk about that instead. But what about leftist Obama? Didn't he deport more than most US presidents in history? Isn't he a fascist by your logic? I mean, of course Trump doesn't care about this. His policy is the closest thing to fascism you can get in a major democratic state these days. Before I start this rant, I want to make sure that you know that I haven't really been to America. I'm not an American, as you can probably hear from my accent, and I don't really know how the American police system works, because I haven't been subjected to it. So take this with a grain of salt, okay? However, I think that the perspective of an outsider can be really useful to you. At least that's what I hope. And also, Americans, I'm talking to you directly right now. I know that you probably know way better than me the horrors that ICE put you through, but I think that maybe an outside perspective can, I don't know, shine some light on it. But, of course, I am an outsider, so I will defer to you on basically everything you say. Now, my idea that ICE is a fascist organization is not really a new one. It's been around since the foundation of ICE. But why do people think that? Well, it all comes down to the role that ICE plays in deporting people. ICE is the organization that grabs people from the street, outside of the courtroom, just in their homes, and deports them to another country, usually by having them sometime interned in a camp before. And you can already see where I'm going with this. And when I talk about fascist secret police, you know how most countries, like when you read on their Wikipedia page, they have like, oh, they would make people report on each other, schoolmates reporting schoolmates, families reporting families. Well, ICE has that. They have one of those hotlines. We're like, what the fuck? It's not report a crime, it's report a person, that's insane to me. Can you imagine schoolmates reporting on each other to fucking ICE? That's horrifying to me. ICE also does raids on legal businesses without a warrant, into families' homes, and just sometimes on the street. And they do this with the sole purpose of grabbing people, putting them in camps, and deporting them. It's a wonder to me how anyone can see this system and not think of a fascist police state. When I was in second grade, this is the shit people told me that Nazis did. And as I studied history, I learned how they did that and more things that are similar to ICE. And whoa, okay. ICE isn't committing genocide. Okay, whoa. I get it. ICE isn't committing genocide, but maybe we shouldn't draw the line of fascism at genocide. Maybe we should work a bit sooner before that. Like the drawing should be like drawn at racial profiling and like before we get to the extermination camps. Maybe we should have higher standards than that. What ICE is doing is detaining people for the sole crime of being in a country where they're not supposed to be, as well as subjecting the people detained to gross human rights violations, ranging from sexual assault to just death. Like, you see this? This is the shit you see on dictator Wikipedia pages, not a law enforcement agency. This is absurd to me. You're supposed to be the fucking beacon of democracy, of freedom and liberty, and this is what you do? Really? The people that ICE are deporting are illegal aliens, which to me sounds like a horrifying term for a person. The term is meant to dehumanize human beings, and it most certainly does. And dehumanizing people is something that fascists do. The crime that these people have committed is being born in one place and currently being in another, without some forms being filled out. Like, how is that a crime? Most of these people that ICE are detaining haven't committed a crime. They're law-abiding people. They're not law-abiding citizens, but they're law-abiding. They haven't hurt anyone. In many cases, they are contributing to the economy and to their communities. They haven't committed any hurt to anyone. They haven't committed a crime. Like, why? I know I sound like a Tumblr SJW princess here. I get it. But maybe we shouldn't detain people that haven't hurt anyone. Like, that's just a suggestion. Maybe we shouldn't grab people off the street for the crime of existing. Maybe. And also, hear me out. Is it really worth spending that much money to get these people into the internment camps and deporting them? Like I said, in many cases they are contributing to the economy and their communities. And you are spending $5.4 billion on this agency. That's a lot of money being spent on deporting people that are contributing to the economy, which means that the money that they would have made, that's also lost from the economy, so it's probably more than $5.4 billion. That's a lot of money that you're losing right there, along with, like, human beings that deserve, you know, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and stuff like that. As well as just, I don't know, human beings. Like, what have you gained from deporting people that haven't committed a crime, that hasn't done any hurt? Like, what do you gain from that? What do you gain from deporting people who haven't committed a crime or haven't committed any hurt on anyone? Has the world become a better place with people torn from their families, from their communities, and placed in countries where they might not have any connections, might not have a family or a community? Has the world become better from that? Tell me, person who is watching this and maybe believe that ICE is good, what good has come from that? Now, I care about people. I like to think I do anyway. If someone hasn't harmed anyone, then I can't really see a reason for disliking them. A lot of the people that ICE are detaining and putting into internment camps haven't done any harm, so why should we do anything then? Even if you're not on board with open borders, you should still see that the way they're doing things now is weird, it's strange, it's oppressive, and it's cruel. Now, I am on board for open borders, which is, you know, but that's a story for another time. My position is that almost every American president has been a fascist to some degree, but the way people are discussing ICE has really changed, and it is changing in a very scary way, not just in the US. As an historian, I know that history is written by the victors, but what that really means can be hard to understand sometimes. If the things that happen in America right now would happen in any non-Western country, America would probably denounce that country and put sanctions on them. But it's somehow okay when the US does it. And it's not just ICE. The entire idea of deportation has very fascist undertones. The concept of illegals infects the police, how they work, it affects everyone who's working within ICE, and it affects mainstream politics. Donald Trump himself speaks of illegals and Mexicans as if they're some kind of plague and not human beings.
It's not only Mexico. If you let that run a little bit longer, it talks about people coming from all over. They're coming from all over. They'll soon be coming, and probably already have, be coming from all over the world. You're probably going to have people, you're probably going to have terrorists coming from the Middle East. Somebody said, oh, we don't have terrorists. They don't even know, because they don't know who's coming. So we have this open border. It's a sieve. It's like water pouring through. People are coming in by the hundreds of thousands. We have no idea who's coming in, and it's not just Mexican.
And ICE operates everywhere, often in conjunction with local police. And the really scary thing here is the timeline. I often suggest abolishing ICE, but the defense I often hear of ICE is that ICE has been a law enforcement institution for decades, and we can't take away this essential part of law enforcement. But that's not true. ICE has existed for 15 years. It's not decades, it's decade. The agency didn't even exist before 2003. And America wasn't some kind of Mad Max style wasteland before 2003. And isn't that the era that these MAGA right-wingers want to return to? Like a world without ICE? And yet they are the ones who are the most staunch defenders of ICE. And in just 15 years they have been able to do all these things. That's horrifying to me. This isn't some legacy from the 1800s, this is things that are happening now, in our lifetimes. And if all these things are happening now in a very short time span, I can see things going better with ICE. I can't really see ICE being reformed into some good law enforcement agency because they have been rotten from the start. And I know, I sound a bit extreme here, but how can't I? Criticizing ICE is something that is fairly easy to do considering all of these things that they have done. I don't think that I'm a left-wing extremist just for the thought of having that you shouldn't deport people who haven't done any harm. Although I am a left-wing extremist. But ICE doesn't just target immigrants. They also target refugees, political opponents, and sometimes US citizens. Imagine 1 in 30 people being deported just being a US citizen. Because that's what's happening, that's what they're doing. ICE isn't even supposed to do anything to US citizens, and despite that they are. And seeing that, it seems like they can just take anyone they want. Many people also witness to that sometimes ICE agents identify themselves as local law enforcement. Another common strategy is just to round up as many people as you can and process them later. Detain first, ask questions later. And that's not how law enforcement is supposed to work. So they detain first, ask questions later, and falsely identify themselves as a local police, which kind of means that they are a form of secret police. You know, the thing dictators usually have. This all seems cruel to me, and it doesn't seem like ICE is doing anything positive for anyone. And I haven't even mentioned the racial profiling that ICE usually uses in the way they operate. Many people witness ICE performing racial profiling, as well as grabbing people outside of immigration courts. Isn't that thought just terrifying? Imagine that you are in a courtroom, defending your right to be in a country, and as you step out of the court, they take you and arrest you. You can't have a fair trial in that circumstance. So let's go through the things that they do. They operate in the entire US, they identify themselves as local law enforcement, they use racial profiling, they abduct political opponents, perform raids without warrants, sometimes deport US citizens, make local law enforcement cooperate with them, subject detainees to inhuman conditions, and operate with the oversight of a person who only wants to make their country return to a glory that they never really had. Like, how is that not fascist? Remember when the right hated walls and tightly enforced borders? Well, here's the thing. Many local governments oppose the way ICE operates and are trying to work against them. And in a democratic society, this should be seen as a good thing. Sometimes ICE argues that the local politicians who oppose them should be arrested for the crimes of undocumented immigrants. That's not fair, that's not democratic, that's not how a law enforcement agency should work, because that's not how the law works. And ICE still operate in cities where they have limited jurisdiction, performing raids and arresting people. Christ, I don't know how to end this video. It's depressing, that's what it is. Call your politicians, hold them accountable, I guess. But Donald Trump is president, how can you even do anything with that? The message I have? Abolish ICE. And make no compromises there. Don't abolish ICE and then make some new border enforcement agency or some shit like that. Abolish ICE totally. There can be no compromise there. The thing is, I don't really know how police in America works. I once occupied a government building in Sweden with no consequences, and I don't think American politics really would agree with that. I guess this is the part where the left-wing extremists would argue for a violent revolution or something like that. Maybe that would work. Who knows? Hey, thanks for watching my video. If you enjoy my content, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. That really means a lot to me. That means that it lets me know that you enjoy my content. And I would also enjoy if you liked, maybe leave a comment. If you really like my content and you want to support me financially, you can do so on Patreon. I also want to give a special shout out to Ibrahim Aldridge. Your support really, it really means a lot to me, and thank you.